All right, guys, welcome back to the Spread Running Game Academy. Today we are going to talk about counter. Let's get into it. Okay, counter. Counter has quickly become one of my favorite plays in the offense. I always liked counter, in fact, but I think I actually wrote in the playbook. In fact, I know I wrote in the playbook. At one point, I liked trap and dart better than I like counter. I don't think that's true anymore. I think I like counter the best because it's the most versatile. And what I mean is, counter works no matter what the defense does. And you don't have to practice everything that the defense does because it's just a bunch of down blocks and you're pulling two guys. Okay, so sometimes when you're trying to anticipate, hey, what is the defense going to do in this situation? We have to practice. Like I talked about that when we talked about trap, right? Like if the defensive end slants inside, but the Sam comes over the top, that's a different look on trap than vice versa. So you have to practice both. Counter, it's easy. You just down block everybody, you kick out, you pull through, right? So counter is becoming one of my favorite plays. I really like it, and we had a lot of success actually running counter this year. I'm becoming more of a fan of counter as I continue to coach in this system, but maybe that's just the kids that I currently have. I don't know. Whatever it is, I like counter. Okay, so we're gonna talk about counter, and let's dive into it. Okay, let me pull up the playbook. So we are on page 33. Here's what counter looks like. Counter is, again, it's an old school play, run out of a spread set now. Looks a little bit different, but basically what we have is we have down blocks on the play side. So all three guys on the play side, center, guard, and play side tackle, are all going to down block. We're going to isolate the defensive end to trap, the play side inside backer to pull. We're going to pull to lead on that guy, and we're going to down block everybody else, and then we're going to read, or we're going to boot, or we're going to have motion, something to hold that backside defensive end. Okay, so that's the basic concept of counter. Now, there's some nuance to it, and there's obviously some key coaching points that we have to coach if we're going to do this effectively. Well, I'll talk about this when we get to the essential drills, but one of the most essential things that you have to teach your guys how to do is down block. They have to be able to down block. If you're going to run counter, you got to be able to down block. Now, sometimes it's going to be a double team, which is great because you can create movement that way. But sometimes it's just going to be a one-on-one, old school. I got to get my head across to your outside shoulder or your outside hip, and I got to drive you down, okay? And so I'm going to talk really quickly about this. What I found with teaching kids is what kids really want to do. If I'm here, okay, and I'm going to block this guy here, okay, and I'm gonna come down on this guy. Okay, what kids want to do is they want to put their head on the near hip and just drive this guy down. But the problem is that can create penetration, right? What you really have to do is work to get your head in front and get your head on the. So you want to aim at the outside hip, almost like you're tackling his near hip. Obviously, you can't tackle him because that's holding, but you want to come down and try to aim toward that opposite hip that you think you're gonna hit. Like if I'm gonna down block you, I think I would hit you on the front hip and push you. Really want to aim for like the back hip, that opposite hip, and really try to get your head in front. And that's going to create that wall that you're looking for. And when we get into the cut-ups, I'll show you that wall. Because what we're trying to create here, if I go back to the playbook, we're trying to create a three-man wall here, right? So like with the nose, the guard, and the play side tackle, you kind of see how that line is being drawn right there. And that's the line that the guard or that the tackle is going to pull up through and the running back is going to follow. Okay, so that's really what we're trying to create is that three-man wall when we talk about counter. Okay, let's come back to rules here. Really simple. Play side tackle, guard, and center. 3 hard down blocks. Step hard, get your head across, drive your man down as fast as you can. Backside guard and tackle. Again, if you know how to run dart and you know how to run trap, you already know how to do this. That's the key. Okay, these are transferable skills. So if you know how to pull the trap and you know how to pull the lead, you can run counter. 3 down blocks, pull the trap, pull the lead. Money, okay? Let me talk about the quarterback and running back mesh point here really quick. I'm going to show you variations of both. I've done it both ways. I like both ways. There's some advantages and disadvantages to doing it both ways. So here's what I mean. What you can do with counter is you can do it like we talked about. You can have your running back opposite the play call. So you have your running back. If you're running counter to the right, you have your running back on the left. He comes across the formation. Your quarterback reads the backside defensive end like we do in all of our other running plays. Or you can actually put your running back on the play side, have him take the handoff, come across the quarterback, and then cut it back. The problem with that, obviously, is that backside defensive end. So you have to have some way to hold to that backside defensive end too. We'll get into that when we talk about the cut-ups a little bit more, but just some variations and some things you can do with your quarterback and your running back to change it up for the defense. Okay, let's look at this against various fronts. Again, one of the reasons I like counter is because it lines up well against a lot of different fronts. Excuse me. Here we go. Versus a 4-2. If we're running it 2-3 technique, okay, it's a one-on-one down block between the tackle and the defensive tackle. So get your head across, come hard, create a wall. Play side guard, there's nobody in his gap. So he's going to go, what I like to tell him is A gap extended. So his rule is the A gap, right? So he's going to step down to the A gap. So let me back up. The rules are here. The tackle is responsible for the B gap. The guard is responsible for the A gap. The center is responsible for the backside A, okay? Or extended. If there's no backside A, he's going to get to that backside 3 technique. But we're going to go down, down, and down. So if there's nobody in your gap, continue on that track to the backside Mike backer. You can give a hand to your buddy. Okay, so as you're down blocking and coming down, say I'm coming down this way, I can give a hand to my buddy here. Okay, I can give him a hand, I can help him, but my rule is I'm going to create that wall and drive toward that backside inside linebacker. Okay, so there we go. There's our 3-man wall, down, down, and down. Backside guard, it's the same as trap. You're going to pull flat, you're going to inside out, and you're going to get your head inside of that defensive end and kick him out. Backside tackle, you are pulling to lead. So keep your shoulders square, drop step, crossover, get up that wall. Now, here's where you'll see it on the cut-ups, but here's where our tackle needs to be really disciplined. He has to stay tight. Okay, the tackle is going to want to get a little bit wider than your wall. If your wall does a good job, we're going to create movement here, right? So this tackle is actually going to be like right there, and then we have the mic and the nose. So our wall is going to be tight, right? So we want that backside tackle to take this kind of path, come tight right up that wall. So there's no gap, no opportunity for that linebacker to run through to undercut that wall. If you stay too wide, right, there's gaps here, right? And that guy can penetrate and make a play in the backfield. So teach your tackle to stay tight to the wall. Okay, so there we go. That's versus a 4-2, 2-3 technique. Now, 2-1 technique. Here's what it looks like. I love it. Okay, I love it because the angles are awesome. The toughest block on the play 2-1 technique. The guard is a great angle, right? He's down, so he's just got to get his head across and drive that nose across the center's face. The tackle's money because there's nobody in his B gap, so he just takes B gap extended and works all the way to the backside backer. The toughest block is this one. Okay, that center has to block all the way back to the backside 3 technique. And sometimes that can be tough because again, this tackle, if he gets in the backfield, he knocks off our tackle and that kills our play. So your center has to step flat, get his head across, and drive this guy, right? Trying to create that wall and drive this guy as far as he can away from the play. Okay. Again, if your tackles and your guards are off the ball a little bit, it helps because even if this guy penetrates half a yard, they're off the ball, they don't get knocked off. Okay, but again, the 2-1 technique, I love it. So again, I'm going to go back to my original point. One of the reasons I like counter, and it's becoming more of my favorite play as opposed to dart or trap, is because dart is really good to a 1 technique and trap is really good to a 3 technique, and counter is good to both. So if you want to stay simple and if you don't want to have your quarterback checking, right? Checking to the 1, checking to the 3. I'm going to back up. If your guard can handle that 3 technique all day, then just run dart to the 3. It's fine. But if you don't want your quarterback to have to check, and if you don't want to have to worry about which way you're calling it, which way you're not calling it, maybe you scrap dart and trap and you just run counter because counter works against both, right? If you're seeing a lot of 4-man fronts, it works to the 1 and it works to the 3, and both are really good. Whereas trap and dart, you kind of have to pick and choose, right? Trap's better to a 3, dart's better to a 1. I think counter is good to both. Okay, so again, as I evolve in this offense, I'm learning every single year as well, right? As I evolve, I try to just share that with you guys and share what's working now. And, my philosophy from 2 years ago might have been a little bit different, but what I currently believe in is kind of that counter because it works against both of those looks. And again, it's a play it's super versatile. Okay, versus a 3-3 stack. again, talk about versatility. It's my favorite time to run counters versus a 3-3 stack. I love it because all of this stunting and all of this twisting and all of this movement and everything that the 3-3 is designed to do, this takes care of it. Okay, even if it's a true 3-5, right? So let's say this strong safety's up here, and let's say this Will is involved in some of these games too. Like, so, teams will do stuff like this. They'll bring the Sam inside, they'll loop the end, and then they'll bring the strong safety up as a force player, or they'll go inside, outside, and outside, or they'll go hard slant inside, the Michael loop and the Sam will loop, right? There's a million different games they can do here with a 3-3 stack. And it's really hard to prepare for all of them, but counter takes care of all of them because counter, you're just blocking gaps extended. So tackle is blocking the B gap extended. So guess what? If somebody slants into his B gap, he's going to drive him down. If nobody does, he's going to continue to the mic. Same thing with the guard. He's got A gap extended. So he's going to come down hard on this nose guard. The nose guard disappears because they're running a game. Guess who's going to appear? That Mike or maybe that Jack on a stunt, right? So somebody's going to appear in that gap and he's going to take him, right? Same thing with the backside with the center. He's going to step here. If the nose slants into his backside A, he's going to block him, right? And if that happens, if the nose disappears here, then the guard is just going to continue on his track and he'll end up on the backside backer. So why I like counter against the 3-3 is because you don't have to prep for all of the stuff that they're going to do. They can do a million things, which means you have to prepare for a million things and you don't have time to prepare for a million things. So if you call counter against all that twisting and moving and stunting, you take care of it all, right? Everything gets washed down, wash, kick out, pull through, and we're off to the races. So sometimes, realize this, sometimes they're going to guess right and sometimes you're going to guess wrong. But counter is a play where you don't really have to guess because it's down, down, down. And even if they ran this, like check this out. Here's a kind of a comment. Here's a stunt they could run. They could go defensive end slant out, Sam loop, strong safety come right there. Okay, or Sam loop, defensive end slant out, Mike come right here. Right? All of that, guess what? It's all taken care of because we're down blocking. Okay, so the people are going to get caught in the wash. We're going to kick out end man on the line of scrimmage, and we're up underneath them. Okay, so counter versus a 3-3 stack. I'll come back to this at the end when we talk about what to run and when to run it. But counter versus a 3-3 stack is really good because it saves you preparation time, right? You don't have to worry so much about preparing for every single eventuality, which is difficult, especially if you have to do that in the passing game as well. It's nice to just be able to call counter and know you're going to be taken care of. Okay. All right, let's go to a couple other looks here. Some of the other more common looks. And then I'll get to something unique about counter, which I haven't talked about yet in run plays. Versus a 5-man box, all 5-man boxes, it's really good, okay? Because obviously we have numbers. The key is obviously making sure that we are taking care of those down blocks. As long as we take care of our down blocks, we're going to be good. And teach your tackle to stay tight to that wall, whatever that wall looks like. If he's tight to it, he's just going to take most dangerous man. One coaching point here. As your tackle pulls through, you'll see this on the cuts, but as your tackle pulls through, if there's nobody immediately in front of him, teach him to look back inside because sometimes this Mike backer might leak out. So say, for example, we go B gap extended here. Say this tackle kind of slants like that and the guard kind of stays with him. And sometimes the Mike doesn't get caught in the wash and he rolls over, okay, and he gets over top of the wall. And so we don't want to chase him. The play side tackle, we don't want to chase him. What we want to do is the backside tackle, as he pulls through, he's going to pull through here, look inside. If there's nobody outside, look inside. Because sometimes, for example, like say we run, if we tag a bubble over here, we might run a bubble with the Y here. This Sam might fly out to the flats, and there might be nobody to block for the backside tackle. So teach him to look back inside, and then he can seal any backers that are leaking over top. Okay, but again, versus a 4-1, it looks really good. Versus a 3-2, it's the same rules. Okay, we're down. Okay, so we're B gap extended. Well, guess what? There's nobody in the B gap. So I'm just going to go B gap extended all the way to that backside backer. Guard, play right through the nose. We can actually create almost like a real double team here and just kind of both double team to this backside backer. We're going to read or motion with or hold the defensive end with motion, or pull the trap, or pull the lead, and we're off to the races. So versus a 3-2, it's really, really good. Versus a 4-1, it's really good. Now here's another reason I said it's quickly becoming my favorite play. One of the reasons I like counter as opposed to dart and trap is you can actually run counter against a 7-man box. Now, remember what I said at the beginning. If you're getting a lot of 7-man box, you better be throwing the football, okay? Because if they're going to cover you 4-on-4, you better be good enough in the passing game that you can take advantage of that. If you're not, you probably shouldn't be running the spread offense, right? You probably shouldn't be running the air raid. If you can't complete the ball a significant amount of the time against four pass defenders, then you might as well just get in double tight if they're going to have 7 in the box anyway, right? You might as well just get in double tight and just run the football. But if they're going to give you 7 in the box and you still want to run the ball, you can still mix in the run every once in a while, even if they're going to commit to a 7-man box. Again, I would probably throw it 90% of the time against a 7-man box. But if you want a running play against a 7-man box, either a 4-3 or 3-4, where all 7 guys are truly inside of the box, counter's your play. Okay, you're either going to run outside with toss or speed option, or you're going to run counter. So let me show what this looks like against a 7-man box. And again, this is unique. This is one of the only running plays I actually have drawn up against a 7-man box. Because most of the time, if you're going to run, if they're in 7, we're throwing the football. But here we go. A true 4-3. Okay, so they're playing straight man across the board, right? They're gonna dare you to throw the football. So you're gonna throw it, and you're gonna throw it, and you're gonna throw it. But if you want to run it, here's why counter works. Because you're getting all of your numbers to the play side. Okay? Because what you're really doing is you're getting 5 blockers, and you're gonna block the 5 most dangerous guys with your 5 blockers. So you're actually gonna leave these 2 guys unblocked on the backside. Now, here's the danger. Obviously, with the 7-man box, they have a free runner, but their free runner is their will. And if he's well coached, he might dart and he might shoot right through the A or the B gap on the backside here and tackle you in the backfield. But that's always going to be a risk when you run against a 7-man box. Anytime you run against a 7-man box, you might get tackled for a loss. That's the risk you're taking, right? They have one more guy than you do. But at least, as opposed to running zone against a 7-man box, or opposed to running dart against a 7-man box, or trap against a 7-man box, if you run counter against a 7-man box, at least the guy who's unblocked is that backside inside or backside outside linebacker. So he has the longest way to go, right? So again, if you're going to run versus a 7-man box, it's a good way to do it. So let's look at what this looks like. So again, we're all down blocks on the play side, right? So tackle's down to the mic, guard is down to the nose, center is down to the backside 3, okay? The guard is going to pull the trap. The tackle is going to pull the lead. Our quarterback is going to read this backside defensive end. This man is free. Okay, so there's a couple things you can do. You can let him be free. Okay, or what you can do is you can get into trips over here. Okay, and hopefully they're probably going to bring another defender over here, but you don't necessarily have to block the strong safety. So maybe you can dig him out with your Y. Maybe you can run a bubble here with your H, and maybe that keeps him, if he has some pass responsibilities, he has the flats or something, maybe that keeps him out. Or you just risk that he's gonna take this path instead of this path. Because again, if he darts here, he might get caught in the wash, but if he shoots through the A gap, he might have an opportunity to make that in the backfield. But hopefully he goes like this, and if that happens, if he tries to take that path, he might just get caught in the wash of all these down blocks, and he might end up blocking himself. Okay, and obviously on the play side, we still have numbers because we're 1, 1, 1, and 1, and we have all those guys blocked, right? We're 4-on-4 over there. Okay, so that's a really good reason to have counter in your arsenal, is because it is one of those few plays that you can call against a 7-man box and feel that you're going to have a reasonable chance of success. Let me show you against a true 50 front, right? A 5-2. Because again, it's one of those plays that most of the time you have a 5-2, you're not gonna run the ball. But if you want to run the ball, counter's the way to do it, because we have down blocks and we have numbers and we wash everything down. Okay, so play side, if they're in a true 5-2, right? So they have a kind of a 4 technique here and a 7, right, or a 5, whatever you want to call that. But inside guy and an outside guy on the tackle. So we're down here. Okay, we're creating a wall. We're down here. We're down here. We're pulling to trap that outside end man on the line of scrimmage. Okay, the Sam, and then we're pulling to lead on the play side inside backer. Again, this guy's unblocked, but if we get movement with our down blocks, the mic might just get caught in the wash. Okay, the other thing you could do is you could crack on him with your H and try to get your receivers involved in blocking that guy too. But again, I know I sound like I'm beating a dead horse here, but one of the advantages of having counter in your arsenal is that it is one of those plays that you could call against a 5-2 or a 4-3 and actually have some expectation that you can execute. Okay, So there we go. There's counter. There's some chalk talk. I know that's a lot. I know I went really fast through that, but basically, quick review. Down blocks on the play side. Teach the heck out of the down block. Make sure your tackles, your guards, and your centers all know how to down block. Everybody knows that when they call counter, it's aggressive, hard, downhill, get your head across. We're trying to create movement, create a wall. Teach your guard to pull inside out. Teach your tackle to come straight down the line of scrimmage and then straight down the wall, and then teach your running back. And this is key. Make sure your running back doesn't bounce. Keep him tight, right behind the tackle's butt. So the tackle's going to come up the wall, the running back's right behind him, and you're going to gash the defense because you're walling everybody down. And it's going to create a massive amount of humanity going this way. Kick out, pull through. It's a beautiful play. Okay, gotta love counter. Okay, click on the next video and we will get into some of the cut-ups.